Welcome students in a new lecture. Today we're going to discuss that is the theory of social contract. Before this theory, we have already discussed the other theories regarding the origin of the state, and those were the divine origin theory and the theory of force. I hope that you have viewed all those two lectures. The theory of social contract. Uh, you know that man is always in search of knowledge, so they try to know their social being, from where they came from, how state came into being, a question like this. So they all been all the time been how it is how the state been developed. So all the thinkers have given various explanation and the theories about the origin development of the state. But now, what about the theory of social contract? The social contract theory, as we know that, like other theories, it is as old as political speculations. Ancient Greek philosophers Plato and Aristotle, they uh, they discussed it, but only to reject it. So more than 1,000 years, no one attended it or no attention to this theory or this idea. No one paid any attention to political philosophers. So, why? Because that was the age of religion, and man's eyes were fixed on the heavens and on the next life and not on this world. So, with the awakening, man's awakening, or the heyday of social contract theory, the modern age. Its heyday is modern age, especially during 16th, 17th, and 18th century. So there was a great controversy between the freedom of the subject and authority of the king. That when man was awakening from centuries old slumber of political life. So during these centuries, this theory got an universal appeal and widely believed, and numerous spotters and writers write down on this theory. So its chief exponents were Thomas Hobbes, John Locke, and Diderot Rousseau. Today, in our discussion, we will discuss these three philosophers with respect to social contract theory, not anything else. So let's start. General statement of the theory. General statement of the social contract theory. As we know that the theory has generally it has three stages. It has three stages. Stage number one is a state of nature. A state of nature. A state of nature means man was on state of nature. Man was on state of nature means he was guided by regulations as nature means was he was on the mercy of the nature. So there were natural laws, so controlled he was controlled by. So they are those natural those nature has some natural laws, and they were not written anywhere, they were no written, they were unwritten. So man was also man has some social rights, some natural rights, some natural right, but they were not more than his natural power. Natural power. Some writers, some writers assert that the state of nature was pre-social. Means a state of nature was to some writers the state was pre-social means that it was prior to human society. Pre-social means the state was means pre-social means that the state was prior to human society, and to some it was pre-political means that it was a society but without political organization or state. So these two importance, pre-social to some it was pre-political. So there was, as we have discussed, there was no written thing, and there was no there was the laws were natural and that they were on the mercy of the nature. So life was what, to some writers it was innocence, and to some there was a rule, there was a rule, there was a rule of might is right, there was a there was a principle of might is right, and too good or too bad means it may be that there was wild savagery and might is right. The rule of, there was no rule of law, the rule of law was might is right, and whether the state of nature was too good or too bad, all social contract theorists agree that man decided to contract out of it. So all the theorists, all the theorists agree that man uh, reached at a stage that he wanted to get rid of that particular bad stage, and the peoples or the men or the public decided to contract out of that particular situation. So uh, when next stage, the next stage, general statement of the thing, the next stage, stage number two, that is the social contract. Means when a man became understand that it is now very difficult for him to live in uh, such a difficult situation, such a bad, such a ravish or savagery type of wild savagery. So he wanted to get rid of that particular situation. And when the men of the state of nature were compelled to leave it, so they formed a contract. They entered into a contract, and means, and after that they formed a society, a state. So they entered into a contract, so agreement or contract to, so why they wanted to put an end to the lawless condition, and they wanted to establish a state or civil society. So logically speaking there, so there must be two contracts. So they wanted to, now the third one is that they wanted to they formed a contract, they formed a state by a contract in order to get rid of that particular situation, so put an end their lawless condition and establish strategy. So they were logically speaking two contracts, political or a social contract to organize the society or state. The first one was political or social contract. It means that in this kind of contract they want to organize the state, organize the society. And in the second contract, governmental contract, where the government has been formed to set up a government, means to form a body of the persons to who can look after the state affairs. So the two sort of, the governmental compact to set up a government, and the first one was to organize the society. But the social contract theorists are not explicit to this point, that anyhow they are not have same views on this point, the formation of the formation of state and the binding under the contract. So as a result of the contract, the individuals, what individuals, when they formed a society in the light of a contract, so the individuals gave up their rights. They gave up their rights uh, for the sake of a state, for the sake of a society. So natural isolation, they gave up their natural isolation and joined into a civil society or state. So they sacrificed it. So each individual now submitted himself to the joint control of all, and was protected by all against the possible uh, rapacity of any other. So human law now takes the place of natural law. So social duties are imposed upon all the peoples, and social rights are granted to all of the peoples. So the general statement of the theory is that uh, uh, in the state of nature they were living in that condition, and they wanted to get rid of that, and then they formed a society. Now comes to the philosophers. Thomas Hobbes, 1588 to 1679 AD, according to him, what sort of state of nature it was? It was pre-social. Means man was essentially, according to Thomas Hobbes, his conception was of it was that it was pre-social, and based it on analysis of human psychology, that according to him man was essentially selfish one. He was, according to Thomas Hobbes, man was selfish, he was egoistic, he was brutish, so he was self-seeking, he was egoistic, nasty. The sole motive of his action was the satisfaction of his own wishes, own desires, own appetites, to desires and appetites at the expense of the desires and the needs of the others. So, satisfaction of his desires. Uh, uh, no reason but diffidence, means a trust and selfish love of power. So he was in the love of what? Power, selfishness. From this analysis of human nature, Hobbes concluded that man was not a social being. Indeed, he was a brutish one, and nothing but grief in the company of his fellows. All men were, according to him, all men were equally selfish, self seeking. All the peoples were cunning. All the peoples were covetous, brutal, and aggressive. So it means that every man is enemy to every man. So the situation was very grieved or gray here, that every man was enemy of the enemy other man. So it was not a war in an organized sense, but a perpetual struggle of all against all. A war of all against the all means the others. So, uh, comp- so this started the competition, and as we have already discussed, that in such situation there was no central authority or common authority which can control their vicious designs. So there was continual fear and danger of violent death from all sides, from all quarters, and there was no distinction of right and wrong, and justice, or we can say injustice, because there was no rule. Only the rule was might is right. Hobbes says that you can quote down with you that only that to give every man's that he can get, and for so long as he can keep it. Once again, I'm going to repeat Hobbes' words in this situation with respect to this that only that to be every man's that he can get, and for so long as he can keep it. So obviously, such a condition of life of state was a continual fear, and the life of man was solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. Uh, and if you study the histories, you will see that in those times there were continuous wars, and lifelong wars. So perpetual fear compelled to make an agreement. So why they formed a state, why they entered into a contract or an agreement, or they formed a society, that perpetual fear, danger compelled them to form a contract. A state of nature is clear. Now Thomas Hobbes uh, In this stage too, they formed a contract. Obviously, even in the state of nature, man had sense of laws of nature, but that would be a critical one, which we will discuss in the another lecture, criticism on the theory. But uh, here you will see the contract, the words, actual words of the contract that. I authorize and give up my right of governing myself to this man. So it means that an individual give up his or surrender his right to what, to this man. So it means that they have chosen a man now, an authority, maybe a king, maybe a big man, or to the assembly of men, maybe a party, maybe some few peoples, on the condition, that that you give up us your right to him, means that all give up their right to the that assembly of men or man, and authorize all his action in like manner. So these are the actual words of the contract of Thomas Hobbes in terms of contract. So uh, by this, Thomas Hobbes formed the state and the sovereign in his book, the Leviathan. He has written the Leviathan in order to speak reverently that of the moral God which we owe under the immortal God our peace and defense. So thus the state is created and man have completely and undoubtedly unconditionally surrender their natural rights to some particular man or assembly of men, so who thereby became the sovereign, while the covenanting individuals become his subjects. So the contract is between the covenanting individuals who have agreed among themselves to submit to the authority of the sovereign. So the contract is not between the subjects and the sovereign. It is not a governmental compact and therefore can never be violated. So no matter what the king or the ruler does. So he gave the concept of sovereignty. So we will not discuss here his concept of sovereignty. We will discuss it in a separate lecture. So the next philosopher was John Locke, 1623 to 1704, the man of 18th century. So John Locke, an English philosopher, he expounded his social contract theory in his book. You may quote down the name of his book, the two treatises on civil government, 1960. Two treatises on civil government, 1960, as a defense of the constitutional monarchy, which the glorious revolution of 1688 and had established in England at the time. So, what was his views on the state of nature? He, before him, we know that before him, Thomas Hobbes painted a very dismal picture of the state, but John Locke never, unlike him, he painted a means a peaceful, a beautiful, means not a dismal one. It was not Thomas Hobbes held a state of war and misery, but here, on the contrary, Locke says that one of the time was, a quoted one, the time was peace at that time, the peace, goodwill, mutual assistance, and preservation. So men enjoyed freedom and equality in that state of nature. Each was living according to his own likings. Unlike Thomas Hobbes, natural man, Locke's man in the state of nature was not selfish or aggressive, but he was social and sympathetic, unlike so. So he was talking with each other on with reason, and there was justice. So man possessed natural rights, but there man surrendered all the rights. So a pre-political condition of human life and not pre-social as that of Hobbes. So pre-political. So this shows that clearly that Locke's state of nature was pre-political condition of human life and not pre-social is that of Thomas Hobbes. So, uh, although the state of nature was a condition of peace and reason, uh, but yet there were some inconveniences experienced in that very stay with there at that time. Uh, Means that what that that the law of nature was not clearly defined because the interest as well as the intelligence of each man uh, differed from others, and each interpreted the law of nature as he liked. So there was no competent, impartial, and known judges to interpret the law. That was the second inconvenience experienced in that John Locke stage. The first one was that the law of nature was not clearly defined. The second was no impartial judge, and the third was no common authority to enforce it. So that is the reason why once a dispute began in the state of nature, if it could not be put to an end. So we witnessed lifelong wars even in that time, and at the time of Adrian sciences. 17th and 18th century. So, although the state of nature was not a state of perpetual war as with the Hobbes, it was, however, full of fears and continual dangers. You may note down with you, the time was full of fears and continual dangers. So, and man's enjoyment of natural rights was very insecure. So they come to form what the contract, the contract, or the contracts, two contracts. There were two contracts. Uh, Although John Locke did not state it explicitly that yet he impliedly said that there were two contracts. His statement was not that there were two contracts or there are two contracts, but impliedly there were two contracts. The first contract, which established first means here I have written first means first formed political society or state, means first in the first contract first contract established the political society or state, and the second contract formed a government. So according to Locke, each individual finding the state of nature and tolerable owing to its inconveniences entered into the inconveniences which I have earlier discussed here. He wanted to avoid from these inconveniences. They formed a society. They entered into a contract. So he agreed with all other individuals to give up his natural rights of executing the laws of nature and punishing offenses against him. But he did not give up. But he did not give up all his natural rights, as Thomas Hobbes asserted. Moreover, the natural rights was not given to a man or assembly of men as like the Hobbes. In Hobbes' contract, the man surrender his natural rights to a man or assembly of men, if you remember. But in here, he do this in the favor of community as a whole, community as a whole. So, John Locke's concept is very important here that he gave an idea of assembly or a limited sovereignty which has a right of revolt, etc. So, it has a great advantage or value that the term sovereignty in his book he has beautifully explained. We will discuss in a separate lecture on sovereignty. So now the third philosopher was J.J. Rousseau, 1712 to 1778, purely of 18th century. Rousseau, uh, before discussing his state of nature, the third important exponent of this important social contract theory, he was French philosopher and by birth he was Swiss, but adopted France as his country. He lived in the pre-revolutionary 18th century France. then ruled by absolutist kings, Bourbon kings, unlike his two English predecessors. Hobbes and Locke, Rousseau had no political axe to grind, no rebellion, no contempt, and no revolution to command. But while the political philosophies of Englishmen did not bear much fruit in the future, Rousseau's writing inspired the great French revolutions of 1789. So, as a philosopher, he presented his theory in two books, namely A Discourse on the Origin of Inequality and the Social Contract 1762. So, his state of nature, according to him, he was great, but not a consistent thinker. He too began his theory with a description of the state of nature, but only because the entire world was thinking and talking about it. Uh, his views on the state of nature are found in his book Discourse on the Origin of Inequality. Like John Locke, Rousseau believed that man lived a free, happy, and peaceful life. So here, both these are different from the Thomas Hobbes. Uh, but two things put an end to this peaceful life. Uh, that the first one was growth of population when the population became increasing, and the other was the concept or the origin of the private property. So these two things uh, change the change the lifestyle and the thinking and psyche of the people at there and in state of nature, and this changed him the concept of mine and dine, and then what happened? The wars means all sort of wars, murders, disputes, quarrels, all those broke outs and never unstopped, never stopping. And they, however, is so the people, the individuals want to they wanted to escape from this warlike situation, to get rid of a warlike situation by entering into a contract and instituting a civil society. The next, you will see what they did. They formed a contract. So, the contract. In his second and most famous book, Social Contract, which he has written in 1762, he does not concern himself with the question of the state of nature. He begins his book with these memorable words that man is born free but is everywhere in chance. You need to remember this important quotation of Rousseau, that it means that man lived free in the earlier natural state, unlike Thomas Hobbes and John Locke, but is now everywhere bound by the laws and customs of civilized life. So, who brought these? It is the man who, again, who brought these. So, the problem is how to justify the obedience of these laws. Its solution lies in the substituting natural freedom by civil freedom. So he was, but now, bound by the laws and customs of civilized life. So, according to him, the problem is deeper. The deeper one that each that each of us put into a single mass his person and all his power under the supreme direction of the general will. So this is the concept which he has given to the society, that this is the general will on the direction of which we need to live, and we receive as a body, each member as an individual part of the whole. So, uh, to some extent, close to the Dr. Lama Iqbal here, that the concept of Ummah he has given, but he has given the concept of general will, the general will, the will of the all, the will of the whole community. You know, general will mean the will of the. So he want to, he must be live. Uh, according to the will of the whole, the will of the community. The general will is the sovereign one. The popular, he gave the concept of a popular sovereignty. General will means obeying himself. When all the peoples are obeying himself, so they are obeying, they are following the general will. So general will is what is not right is not the general will, according to Rousseau. That so it means that all the people, hence Rousseau proclaims that the sovereignty is what it is: absolute, it is unlimited, it is inalienable, it is indivisible. We will discuss this important point, sovereignty, in a separate lecture, but here, according to Rousseau, that gave an idea of a general will and a popular sovereignty. So that was the uh, that's the end of today's discussion. We will criticize the Sam theory in a separate lecture. Hope you will find a great contribution to the uh, fundamentals of political science. Thank you very much.